Don't you hate that feeling when it feels like you're being pulled in all sorts of different directions? There's this thing going on in your work life and business and family and home and your own needs and fitness and whatever the context and the makeup might be for you. There's that kind of overwhelming feeling being pulled in many directions. And I see it very often for a lot of guys. And this is how we address that in a coaching call with one of our clients, Steve, this week. Hang around. I'm going to show you what this tends to mean and one of the key coaching actions that I gave Steve in today's session. Now, if you're new here, click that thumbs up. Make sure we know that you like this, but it means that it gets in front of more people and we know that you like content like this. Hit that subscribe button. Most people who watch these haven't yet subscribed. That means that you will get access to these videos. Click that little ring the bell so that you get notifications as soon as we post these news videos so that I can be coaching you directly so that you're getting this almost curated content to you. Drop us comments of the type of content that you want to see. All right, let's get into today's lesson. Hey there, legend. I'm Mike Campbell. I am the anti-nice guy men's coach. I'm the founder of the Everyday Legends Academy and the Zeus Inner Circle, and I support nice guys in building self-worth, self-respect, and a rock-solid sense of security so that you can kill your nice guys, bury that shit, and feel solid, secure, grounded, and get so much more from your life, from love and the everyday. And this is a coaching call that I had with Steve where he has a working situation where his job has so many requirements of him, and there's different requirements, different things coming up all the time, like many people. And he often feels himself pulled in many directions. And so when we look at that today, what we can see is he has different tasks throughout his working life and day, and they can differ. One thing he can count on is that there's going to be a variety of different things. What we see when we're pulled in many directions, whether it's Steve or someone else, you, is that often we don't allow ourselves to close out one thing before we move into another thing. And in combination with that, we're often poor at prioritizing. And so what happens is when I get into that mode, it even tends to get worse. When I'm overwhelmed, I just deal with the fire at the door, the thing that comes in front of me. For Steve, literally the issue that walks in his office. He might have three other things planned over here, maybe in his calendar, whatever it might be, that he needs to do. And then an issue comes across his desk, literally, but for you, it might be something else. And so we deal with that. Oh, an email pops in. I deal with that, right? And so I feel scattered. I feel more overwhelmed, and I just end up doing a thing in front of me because it gives me a sense of a win. But it doesn't necessarily deal with the backlog, with the things that I need to get done. This also kind of piggybacks on another conversation that I had with Steve recently as well, where he's talking about this idea of feeling behind and never being caught up. Of course, because you're feeling pulled in a number of directions. And one of the major reasons is because he allows every task, every situation, every demand to bleed into the next. So what he's not doing is closing those things out. So one of the things that we spoke about for Steve, and this is a strong recommendation for anyone who is out there, is the two things that this has to explore. One is the transition time between one task to another. This is a very important piece for me, and I've spoken about this in one of these coaching corner videos before, that men need to transition at the end of the day from work mode to partner, parent mode, whatever it might be. Now, that's a gross generalization, but the point there being the masculine is great at applying ourselves to a detail and achieve a result, right? And we will fix and solve and fix and solve. And that's anyone. There's a lot of that going on for a lot of men predominantly, but it's not every man, of course, and not only men. Achieve a result, achieve a result, achieve a result. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. And what we miss is that often we don't need that mode. And so how that can broadly look for a lot of guys is they spend their day solving problems, taking action, achieving results. And then we come home and we need to be a partner. We need to be a parent. We need to be a nurturer and a caregiver. And so it requires us to transition out of that. Very important piece to transition. That might be a process. It might be having a shower, changing clothes, walking around the block, but something where you sit, maybe decompress, and you kind of put the day aside. Now I'm needed in a different role, and I transition into partner, parent, caregiver mode. What we're talking about for Steve and his workday is a mini version of that. Whatever, even if one meeting to the next meeting are very similar and they require the same modes of him, there's still this opportunity for him to set up a form of a transition where he closes out that thread so he's not being pulled or the risk of being pulled on it, right? He's thinking about it later. It's coming up in a different meeting on the way home from work with his kids, in bed when he's trying to sleep, whatever it might be. He closes it off, even if everything isn't completed. What needs to be completed at a different point in time? Set it up park it. And then he transitions into the next stage, phase, event, whatever that might be, so that he can move into it, right? Then we address, okay, so what's coming across is someone's coming in with this issue that needs to be addressed. And he said, it's important to them, so I need to do it. You don't necessarily need to. So this enters in the second phase of this, which is the need to prioritize. Whilst there might be a fire at the door, when I transition and take a moment, it allows me to go, is this important? Yes or no? Even if it's yes, does this need to be the most important thing right now? And so when I transition, it allows me to step back and see things more clearly and then prioritize. And so I might have to have some uncomfortable conversations, which for reforming nice guys can be a challenge because the old people pleaser comes out. He doesn't want to disappoint people. This is important to this person, but you need to be able to say to yourself, it's not as important for me right now. So you can say to that person, for example, this is important to you. I see that, and it will be important to me, but it can't be right this moment. Can I address that here, there, wherever that might be? So prioritization, being willing to disappoint someone who wants you to solve that or address that thing right then and there, perhaps, and then transitioning so you can be clear in the next piece. Transition, be clear in the next task, demand, situation, whatever it might be. Close it out, put it behind, because without that, he's got all these threads on him and he's feeling pulled in many directions. Very, very common, of course. So everything bleeds into the next. Everything bleeds into the next. I feel overwhelmed. I feel full. I'm ineffective. Therefore, I procrastinate. I spin. I waste time. Whatever it might be for you. For Steve, it was often getting his phone out and distracting, which is cool. His body telling him I need some kind of space, but a very ineffective way of trying to meet that need by filling myself up even more and not accomplishing shit I need to do. Stop, slow down, prioritize, transition, bring clarity. Ask yourself those questions, set up those mini transitions. One meeting, you might then leave the office, walk around the block, take a few breaths, connect to your breath, come back in. What does the next meeting require me? And away of me, and away you go. Whatever those might be in your situation, let me know in the comments how this applies to you, where the bleeding from one thing to the next, the overwhelm, the pulling in many directions plays out for you. Perhaps I can support you in how you can implement these prioritization and transition time strategies to be more impactful, more unfuckwithable in your life. See you soon.